I'm your host, Scott Norton, and welcome to At Large. On this show, I talk to world-class creatives who use business to bring their ideas to life. We'll hear about their creative practices, their most interesting stories, and the lessons that'll inspire you the way that they've inspired me. Today I sit down with Raed Khawaja for the first episode of At Large recorded in front of a live audience. Raed is the founder of Open, which offers guided breathwork, meditation, and movement through both an app and a studio in Venice, California, where we sit today. You'll hear that Raed is deeply curious, considerate, and creative when it comes to giving people the tools and teaching for these practices. But Raed does not identify as a spiritual leader. In fact, he calls himself an anti-guru, and you'll hear why. In a world where community has become a slide headline on a pitch deck, and wellness has become a supermarket category, I dare say that Open offers a genuine experience of both, in a way that makes you say, I need more of that, once you've experienced their signature breath and sound class. So let's unpack this puzzle. Please enjoy Raed Khawaja at Large.
Next inhale, take your deepest inhale yet and hold it at the top. Hold it here. Hold it here while relaxing your body. And release. Before you come back to the room with your eyes, trying to remember what color Scott was wearing for his top. What color I was wearing. And then come back when you're ready. Who's right?
This is an unforgettable top.
That's what, and you always have them. You always have them. Always
I thought a lot about the color contrast today, about what kind of hue I should wear in such a naturalistic space with this exposed wood. I had a feeling that you were going to wear jute and black, and I was exactly right. And I also had to wear some naturalistic fibers, but you know my personality. I'm a jewel tone guy.
Yeah, no, I've always said that about you.
I'm a jewel tone guy.
Big jewel tone guy.
Raed, thank you so much for guiding us through this. Yeah. Thank you for hosting us in this beautiful space. Thank you all to our first ever live audience for At Large, a show where I talk to creative people who have made their way in business, about creativity and about business and about art and commerce coming together. Speaking of clothing, today was one of those beautiful days that I've been looking forward to because I had planned everything out. I didn't have to really make any decisions. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to be spending my time. I did plenty of research, did plenty of work ahead of time. There was one decision that I had to make and I kind of wasn't looking forward to it, which is what socks am I going to wear? And then I opened my sock drawer and I realized I have Open socks.
Yeah, here we go.
And so today I'm going to wear my Open socks. What is breath work?
What is breath work? Yeah, so breathing we do all the time. We actually don't have to do it on purpose. Breath work, we're making a connotation of this kind of active conscious manipulation of the breath, right? And that can range from really simple techniques and then more transformative techniques. But really the core principle around it is you're taking, an active or purposeful agency driven approach to your breathing. What it does principally is it's modulating your nervous system, right? And so you're on purpose, depending on the technique, the pace, the rhythm, you're taking it into a sympathetic state or a parasympathetic state. And when we're doing this, we're modulating everything that is connected to how we're thinking, feeling, experiencing, and from a physiological level, this experience we call life. So that's really what it is. But what we're doing is while we're giving that area of the brain, the amygdala, hippocampus, these emotional centers, more blood and more region, we're creating a safe environment where we can now surface things that might be, deep emotional things, traumatic experience or whatever. They're coming to the surface in a safe way. So think of it not dissimilar to how you have physical exercise or physical fitness. We're training our body into a certain level of resilience, right? Now we're doing this in kind of for the more emotional states.
So the practice of this type of breath work, many of the classes that you have here, and what you've explored, it dials down the more practical kind of matters of your consciousness, your what do I have to do later in the day?
Yeah.
You know, am I afraid of something? Am I worried about something? And it dials up these other kind of emotionally sensitive areas.
Yeah, that's the thing to hone in on. There's other things going on, but
Yeah.
I think that's what you're getting at.
That's
and
very
understanding kind of with specifically like around holotropic breathing and things like that, that why people are having these bigger experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of overlap with that and what we're the same type of activity when we take psychedelics. And that's what's always been really interesting to me about these practices is how can you get to these same states without having to take psychedelics. Not that one shouldn't, or that's just a whole other topic,
Right.
but it's been very inspiring to me. I've had psychedelic experiences or these altered states just doing what we just did now, like breath observation, body scanning, right? And so when you can peel back the layers of consciousness like that by just conducting your human instrument on purpose, I find that very fascinating.
It's a magical
and
thing.
You don't have to take anything to do that. And I think putting a spotlight on that aspect of it, I think starts to empower people with the idea that they have agency over their lives, actually, and they have agency over their experience in ways that we maybe have fallen out of touch with, right?
Yes. And at the risk of inflating your ego, which you just mentioned,
Yes.
I love discovering people who have invented a genre. You know, Tarantino invented his own genre of film.
Yeah.
Daft Punk invented their own genre of music. Yeah. And breathwork did exist, period, and it existed in the United States.
Yeah.
But it didn't really exist in the formats of the breath and sound class that you do here. Talk to us about your journey of discovery and creation of the open program, specifically around that breath work.
Yeah, I'm tempted to give even further context. Just the fact that I grew up in a more religious context around practice always, feels relevant to bring forward. But because that's where my not only my spiritual practice, but my mental, emotional, physical practices really were born. And those were very kind of, again, more nuanced techniques or subtle techniques, right? Things like mantra meditations and focus attention, awareness exercises.
And what religious or spiritual kind of frame
Muslim.
Muslim?
Yeah.
Mantra meditation in...
Well, we would call it prayer.
Right.
We call it salath. We do it 5 times a day, and we do
Gotcha.
it even deeper in certain months of the year and things like that. But if you break things down to their atomic units, then you start to flatten the playing field in terms of what it is that you're doing, right?
Understood.
Right. So I grew up with that. I had that as a benefit, and it got me as I stopped practicing that religion and got into more secular ideas. I also got into more secular practices and, basic meditation practices, breath work, sound work, other physical exercise modalities, things like that were all of deep interest to me. And I'm a nerd. So and I had kind of broken from what I would call like the shackles of my lineage-based thinking. And so I became very interested in a multidisciplinary approach. So I didn't learn just one and stop there. I just learned many different techniques from various people or on my own. And I think that context really matters to like fast forward, we developed this experience called breath and sound. I was organizing meditation classes for friends, really, doing group meditation in awe-inspiring spaces in San Francisco, ran a couple of those, and again, they were more subtle techniques, and so I thought, what if I put together an experience that was more immediate, that people could taste what presence and connection tastes like right away, which feels antithetical in some traditions to what the practice is all about. but with empathy for the human experience maybe, or just I had a lot of free time at the time. I started running this experience and what I thought would be an engaging and interesting experience. And I started putting it together in a way that really wasn't, in my opinion, or from my experience, and I had looked around, been done before. Things like breathing to the beat of the music, or having a certain sonic texture, or a certain perspective on the music that was the context to the experience, was kind of the table stakes. Combining that with sound work, this was being done in bits and pieces, but just putting it all together in a way that I felt would reliably get people to and consistently get people to an experience where they had direct contact with some of these things that we were talking about.
So you discovered these different building blocks that other teachers, coaches, or studios were doing.
Yeah.
With the breathing, maybe a piece of the music, and you wove it together in the way that worked for you and the audiences that was there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think I've always viewed myself a bit as the anti-guru, and so rather than inventing any single building block, I was always more interested. I was like, wow, there's so much good stuff out here. And the hard part is not, we don't need to invent yet another kind of fringe of one of these things. Someone needs to do the hard work of curating, actually. Aggregating these, finding the through line and presenting it in a simple way. And so curation rather than gurudom was kind of one of the core principles of how we've approached experiences here from the get-go.
So then, what, in your own words, is open? Is it a belief system? Is it a community? Is it a brand of breath work? Like, how do you describe what open is?
I call it an applied philosophy, probably most succinctly, and that philosophy has both theory and practice, and we're secularizing on both sides of those. We're going out there, we have breath work as a part of our menu and our portfolio of techniques and modalities, but we every bit also champion meditation and physical practices that range from strength, conditioning, mobility, all of that. And so that's all on the practice side where we're secularizing. And then on the theory side, we're doing the same thing, whether it's Buddhism or positive psychology or neuroscience or what the hell is quantum physics. We're looking for through lines that help people contextualize these practices in what we call the human experience, right? Life.
So you're curating this kind of delicious buffet of these different, some religious or semi-religious and some secular philosophical ideas, and creating a physical space where those are practiced, taught, explored, and also a digital space where people through the app can experience those at their own pace.
Totally, yeah. We think of it as a brand in itself, and then we're creating an ecosystem around that brand. We have the most valuable thing at the company is the perspective that we have on the content itself. And all of it is with the aim of improving the odds, again, that you come in contact with the experiential aspect of this knowledge, because we can intellectualize all of this as much as you want. But we believe in our bones at the space that if we improve the odds that you come into contact with this theory and this practice in a secular way, and you feel that in your body rather than have to believe someone about one of those things, that we're giving agency back to you.
Yes.
We're not telling you what to believe.
Right.
We're guiding you to, be able to find out what you believe for yourself.
And I was a skeptic too. When I first heard about breath work, I'm like, breathing? Like, I haven't done that.
Yeah.
And then I actually came to a breath and sound class, and I was like, oh, damn. Like, I found the experience deeply profound.
Yeah.
And I had all these really high gravity thoughts at the height of the experience. And I became a convert, if you will, to your anti-gurudom after that. So, zooming out a little bit more, now that we've got the perspective on open, in 1992, 34% of Americans regularly attended religious service weekly, and in 2019, that was down to 23%. And in the last 10 years, I think there's been a decidedly different tone about religion. It's not just in decline anymore. It's kind of same with spirituality. It's almost, it's growing in by some measures, and it can also be seen as like transgressively cool to be religious, whereas before it was more like uncool, I think, to be religious. What are your thoughts on religion and spirituality among young people? And the transition from organized religion to what's taking its place?
The way the statistics and the studies are done, it's like religious and some sort of affiliation, or non-affiliated, essentially. And non-affiliated breaks down into agnostic, atheism, or literally just not affiliated. And I think Gen Z's at like 50% now.
50%
non-affiliated. And
yeah.
In the early 90s, that was something like 8%. So still dramatic. I think you mentioned like, oh, people are coming back to religion, and the curve is smiling, but it's been a very deep and dramatic slope down for a while. So it's important to point that out. It's smiling a little bit, but it's not laughing. And but no, I think what's happening is, from my perspective, is that the moment in time that we're in right now is one where we're birthing what today is an artificial intelligence, and that we are all speculating on when, but will soon be a super intelligence. And so what we're stepping into is a heightened existentialism and a deep questioning about, okay, if it can do that, or if it can produce that, or if it can think that, then, and I thought that that was uniquely what it meant to be human, then who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my meaning? And so I think, if we're coming, actually I'd be wrong to say we're coming out of, if the phase that we're coming from is one of a mental health crisis, stress, loneliness, depression, anxiety, all happening to a disorder level, we're certainly entering a purpose and meaning crisis. And so in that backdrop, it makes total sense that people are going back. I mean, we're being confronted with this, so people are, okay, so what do we got?
Yes.
Let me see. And the OG well-being brands, some of the most comprehensive, the most thought through, are the ones that have some of the best logos. They've been around for a long time. It's Christianity. It's Judaism. It's I can go through the Abraham. These philosophies, if you will, they've been around for a very long time. They're very comprehensive, and so even though if you actually speak to people, I think they'll say something to the effect, and I'm generalizing here, but they'll say they'll almost speak to some dissonance with believing all of it, but they've found a home with it, and they said, this is the space that I'm going to do that. Whether that's because that's a tradition I grew up with and I have some relationship with it in that sense, but there's still a little bit of dissonance that I have noticed, and I think that if there were platforms and brands and ideas that were modern that attempted to do the very hard thing, to be as comprehensive, as well thought through, as considered, as truth-seeking as the brands that came before us, then I think there's a huge swath of people that would turn towards those as well. I do also want to say, though, specifically around open, is that the brand is very specifically architected to be a space where you can believe any one of those things and also be in this space. It is the secularity that is fundamental to what we do.
One of the things that struck me in the open experience, it is decidedly secular, and it's not the breathwork is not a religion, right? One of the things that struck me was how personal of an experience it is. So you were feeling your body, you were very much in your own mind, you're with your own thoughts, and a lot of of course, I'm sure it depends a bit on whatever instructor is teaching the class and in the room or leading it, but a lot of the language is about self-acceptance, and it is about going inward, and it is such a physical experience that are you ever concerned that there's not enough connectivity to it, or kind of an interpersonal ethos of what open is, and it's more narcissistic or self-obsessed.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a narrative that's carried through it in meditation practice as it came to the West. It had a lot of different types of contexts, but certainly a lot of it also landed in alignment with this kind of performance attitude and how do I improve myself.
That's right, self-improvement. This obsession with self-improvement as a foil of wellness, right? That's the other side of the coin of wellness is like the self-improvement ethos versus a connectivity ethos or a service ethos. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, a couple things. One thing comes up for me is that as you go back to pretty much all of these spiritual traditions, there's always some sort of divide even within the sects of these different perspectives and ideas. One that kind of leans more monastic and kind of, strict to the rule and, it's sashimi grade practices and ideas and whatnot. And then there tends to be these more heart-driven kind of connective, community-driven ideas. And so this almost Cartesian divide has existed for a very long time. And I think that's where practices like transformational breathwork that we were talking about, which taps into the emotional side of what we do, actually leaves us open to and more receptive than traditions that are only focused on, let's say, like focused attention type exercises. And so that's the first thing I would say is that there's something interesting going on just in the lineage of how this has come to us, and people pick a side for some reason, but the duality is actually I think the recipe. The second thing that comes up for me is just this idea of, you didn't use this word, but something I'm seeing really emerge in the landscape is this idea of community as a product or social as a product.
Yes.
I don't get that. I think the product is the product, and so long as you create the space, offline or digitally, community is a byproduct of a shared experience that people are coming for, right? And so I think spaces like this one especially, and we'll find interesting ways to do this digitally, but I think it's way harder. But spaces like this, why we're so passionate about it, is that you can't help but be more receptive more open to connectivity and to the feeling of wanting to consider more than yourself, especially when you're right next to your community and you're engaging in these practices on purpose together.
Yeah. I think this is, we're kind of talking around it and skirting the line too, that, what church was a place where you had permission to meet and talk to strangers.
Yeah.
And we now have the workplace, and for a while it was a purely remote workplace where you weren't even physically around people, even if you were only there because you had an economic relationship with them. Right. And in Los Angeles specifically, right, having lived for many years in New York, where you're constantly surrounded by people, and New Yorkers are the most open, nicest people in the world. You could just kind of talk to anyone, right? Los Angeles, everyone's like, their default mode is like hermetically sealed in their cars, and like everyone else is an enemy, right? Yeah. And what's interesting about Venice is it is sort of a walkable community on the West Side, this strip in particular. And while, you say like, okay, the community is not the product is the product. I do think that because people are so hungry for spaces, non-digital spaces, where they can interact with real people, make new friends, meet new people, have interesting conversations, it may not be the product you offer, but it's one of the attractive elements of what this place is.
Totally, yeah, I'm not, yes, and of course.
But there is also, I think you're right to kind of criticize or question this like, community as a product buzzword, right? Like community as a strategy, right? And all this kind of like post-capitalist garbage that we're choking on and dealing with, right? And this is what I love about this is it doesn't push it, right? It is kind of the real thing in creating that space where people can be open with each other.
And and there is a commonality. That's where I'm talking about the shared experience being the product. It's not that we're not celebrating community. It's about giving space for community.
Yeah.
After the shared experience in the product that you're coming for.
Right.
And the thing that is also emerging, though, I would say in the landscape that I think is really positive, and there's such good tailwinds around this, is that the context is shifting. You mentioned church. That's actually great that that's happening. But the fact that the majority of what we have been doing around our social lives is going to places that have alcohol.
Yes.
I'll just like pick on that one drug.
Yeah.
And that, like, if you want to socialize, you have to go somewhere that has alcohol. Like, that's just like, I think everyone's just kind of finding that passé at this point.
Right.
Right. And
right.
so time and place, but
we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Wellness used to mean eat your vegetables and go for a jog. And now it's like contrast therapy, cold plunge, infrared saunas,
powders,
all the powders, the supplements, the cleanses, intermittent fasting, 5 a.m. wake up, no screens before bed. Why do you think the bar has shifted so dramatically?
I want to call out that my first instinct was to be really negative right away and talk about how I hate that word, wellness.
Yeah.
I guess I did in the end.
But that's okay. That's the tension we want to get to.
No, it's just like it's one of those things where it just doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's a term that we don't use a lot at the company or at all. But I do think it is amazing that people are turning their attention and their energy towards not just self-improvement, but just feeling good. And what are the natural ways that I can live a better life? It really comes back to something as simple as that. And so I'm critical of the term and what's happened because, of course, there's been a lot of products and things that have come to market that in a rush to make a sale or whatever just aren't authentic, crafted, or efficacious.
Yes.
And so that's the criticism.
And
of
they're
it.
consumptive.
They're consumptive.
No one is ever really talking about like, oh, I'm focusing on my wellness, right? And being in the food world, there was a word that was only used by industry, which is gourmet. You'll never find anyone saying, I like to go to the grocery store and I like to pick things that are gourmet. You never hear anyone say, I like to make gourmet food. Let's go to a gourmet restaurant. It's only used by industry.
Right.
And I think wellness has actually become that same word.
Right.
Where people talk about the wellness industry or the wellness beat. I remember the first time I heard that people call the cosmetics industry the beauty industry. I wanted to cry. You call it the beauty industry? You're selling cosmetics.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think that the reason why you have that initial reaction is because we do observe, maybe not so much with actually our friends and the people that like we love and spend time with, but mediated through the internet and mediated through screens, this wellness thing has been so twisted into consumption and overconsumption and commercialization and obsession. And because it is seen as this kind of like moral good or was a moral good, it gives people permission to go overboard on it.
Right.
Gives people permission to shill it.
Yep.
Gives people permission to make it part of their identity to the point where it's unhealthy and it feeds the ego. And it's, you and Open are in some ways, you're in the maelstrom of that. Like I commend you, and the reason I'm sitting down with you is because I think you've resisted it and you know what you are and what you aren't. And I think this is a special space. But this like 1 square mile of Venice, it's enough to make you sick to your stomach sometimes.
100%.
Let's talk again about AI and superintelligence.
Okay.
Of course, it has to be part of every conversation, but you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
And I've recently, artificial intelligence is what people call it, but I've kind of started thinking of it or calling it as synthetic intelligence, because it really isn't artificial. It is actually intelligence.
Right.
And it's intelligence in so much as we grade human intelligence by language abilities and linguistic abilities, and it outputs what humans can produce from language perspective, and the way that synthetic intelligence or artificial intelligence is actually crafted is the architecture of the human brain with neural networks and parallel processing and essentially this combination of statistics, right, and weights and biases that happens in a computer chip with electrons and switches and gates, but happens in the human brain with both electrical switches and chemicals and brain chemistry. Where do you think this is going? Where do you think that the kind of escape velocity or the AI future, what is it going to mean to be a human in 5 years?
Yeah, the timing of it is the one that's why I don't day trade either. The timing I won't debate, but I think what does feel, inevitable and what the context is that, if we just came off of a generation and season of basically physical labor was the first thing that we got ourselves out of. Essentially, we still have it in a sense, but like post-industrial age, like it first meant to be human to be doing things physically and producing things, and then we moved into a cognitive era.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of what you were alluding to. So we're kind of replacing the cognition of it all,
right?
The mental processing of it all,
right?
Like problem solving, right? And so I think we at some point confused the fact that we were the best at it with that is what makes us uniquely human. Just because we were the best primate at it doesn't mean that that's what made us uniquely human, right?
I'm following you.
Even the chimps, right? So we thought the fact that we make tools was what made us uniquely human. But Jane Goodall showed us that actually, no, the chimps are making tools too. They're not as sophisticated, but that's not what makes us uniquely human. And she would say, shout out Jane, she passed away recently. She would say what makes us uniquely human is the fact that we can, there's some themes, but one of them is that we can think beyond our kin and care beyond our kin. We can plan and storytell. We can collaborate with each other. We can imagine a future that we want to see, and we can collaborate with each other to make that happen, to improve things. And so I don't know the exact answers, and I do want, purpose and meaning to lie with the individual as well. That's so much of what we're trying to lay the groundwork for or lay the scene for. But I do think the answers lie somewhere in there. It's in our intuition. It's in our emotional intelligence and capacity for compassion. It's for our vision, and it's our ability to collaborate with people to make things happen.
Yeah. And do you think we'll be in a place where AI does enable us to be more human and kind of free up some of these constraints and the cognitive load of practicalities to do these beautiful romantic things that you're describing?
So I'm techno-optimistic as a mental health hack. So my immediate response is yes. And so then you have to imagine how we do it, or what would get in the way, or what are the deep risks. And I think the deep risks are actually these human-made institutions that might not be, have not modernized. You can look at our government and our structures and how we elect, or whatever it is. I mean,
and K-12 education. I mean, I have two kids, one's in first grade, one's in third grade, and, AI will basically can now deliver an intelligence that is equivalent to a Harvard grad.
Yeah.
Right? I mean...
And you can slap a companion professor to your kid from the get-go.
That too, right? But what it calls into question is like, what is now the purpose of an education?
Yeah.
Because we used to know the purpose of an education was to be able to do this math, do this reading, do this critical thinking. We don't teach personal financial management. We don't teach like sales abilities. There's all these things in schools that we don't teach. We teach all these other things that now AI is really, really good at.
Yeah.
And there's so many questions and nobody has compelling answers.
Right.
On the education question.
Yeah. I'm excited for whatever's better than this last
Me
term.
too. Yeah.
To be clear.
And I hope that the institutions can actually change.
Right.
But I'm also a techno-optimist, and I think that I think that for those who are engaged with it and those who are paying attention to it and are using it critically and using it creatively, this is an amazing time to be alive.
Oh, I'm so energized. Even in the very tiny time scale of me working on on this project, I mean, I'm more enthusiastic than ever about what we can do to leverage the technology, the intelligence to better serve our customers, to better serve our humanity. But yeah, it of course comes back to how we use it. And of course, I think human beings have an incredible propensity to magnify the immediate experience and kind of forget the backdrop of what's going on overall. I mean, we just got on the internet.
Yeah.
We just put it in our phone not too long after that, right? We just started to get social on it after that. Our attention decays. And yeah, we're feeling the growing pains of our consciousness evolving, essentially.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But we're talking about 20 years and 10 years and 5 years.
You're making me relax. I'm glad we have time to figure this out.
We have time to figure this out. No, we have time, and it will come with its short-term pains for sure. But I think that as long as we can stay steady and train our body's ability to, again, be the conductor of our human experience, if we build resilience and robustness in our faculties and know how to run this instrument, if we can teach people, as you talk K through 12, less about the Civil War in third grade, and more about our anatomy and our physiology and our consciousness, what we know about neuroscience. Well, yeah, if we can get to those topics earlier, then maybe the short-term pains won't be as deeply cut.
Great. Well, in a few years, I cannot wait to be an adjunct at Open School. Shifting gears, humans have always sought altered states, from ancient rituals to raves.
Yeah.
What are people seeking? What is behind that?
I think it's different for a lot of different people, but I think it ranges from.
But it is fundamentally attractive to humans to be in these altered states.
I mean, that at worst, it's escaping a reality that's not comfortable.
Right.
At best, it's seeking insight.
Yeah.
Or deeper resonance with practices that are adjacent to it. And somewhere in the middle of that spectrum is some sort of healing, even if that's not the word that somebody is using, right? And so reaching for it as medicine, reaching for it as practice, reaching for it as a spiritual connection. I think seekers is the through line. That's the word that's the through line. And what you get out on the other end is a variable reward. But yeah, we've been doing this for as long as time, right? It's in some way, I mean, we've got cave drawings 30,000 years ago that suggest we're seeking altered states, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I most describe it as silencing the discursive mind. Like the stakes that I seek, the altered states, are when I can quiet the mind.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I do like open and this form of breath work, because you're simultaneously quieting the critical part of the mind, but you are, I didn't even know this, you put it into words earlier, you're dialing up the volume on some of the emotional parts. And perhaps because of the incredible oxygenation, they tend to be kind of positive and optimistic. Or maybe that's just my brain chemistry. But I'm seeking the silence and the quieting of the mind. And there's a lot of activities that can do this, right? Breath work, running, dancing, meditation, and then substances. There's legal ones, like you mentioned alcohol, which is sort of this default, elixir for socializing.
It's the worst drug.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come out and say, sorry, it's not like I wines at some point this
But
week.
it happens to be legal and socially acceptable. And then there are illegal substances or controlled substances. You mentioned psychedelics earlier. What have you noticed about how drug use in society is changing?
Yeah, so first I should mark, when I said it's the worst drug, I'm saying that with the context of how insidious it is that it's so available and so present in culture. It's the combination of that. It's obviously there's things that could destroy your life faster. But yeah, so that's the context of that. But I think it's the same thing that you talked about religion. where there's a smiling curve on people getting back to an interest in spirituality in a new way. I think that, and I'm very grateful for all the research that's been done and all the people that are funding this type of research on psychedelics. And there's really promising things about PTSD, stress, depression, all sorts of things that we feel like it could be good for. And so I think it's very powerful, very important, and it should be controlled and distributed in a safe way. And that's it. I think it's really just back to the same thing, where people are seeking answers and or healing, and this is but another pathway to do that. And this is the spectrum of the human experience all the time. We just don't give credit for it.
Yeah.
Right. We create North Stars. We make gods out of these North Stars with simple words.
Yeah.
Like balance.
Yeah.
Balance is a North Star. That's a false idol. There's no such thing as a destination as balance.
Right.
Right? It's balancing.
Yes.
You're in a constant state of balancing.
Yes.
Right? And so arete, there's so many, it's not the pinnacle of arete, it's the precipice.
What is arete?
I think it was Aristotle who was describing like the pinnacle of something. And he's not describing the peak of it, he's actually describing the precipice of the peak. It implies an ever-evolving, perpetual state towards these things, right?
Cool.
And so we're constantly balancing.
Yeah.
And the more, whether you're taking something to induce an experience that allows you to balance, or you're practicing towards something, it's important that people have the vocabulary and the access and the ability and the spaces to be able to, get to the desired approach.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Talking about K through 12 education, there's so little knowledge and education about altered states and drugs.
Right.
But they are actually so important to the human experience.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons I'm a big fan of Hamilton Morris.
Okay.
Because he's not, I'm sure you know, do you follow him or know him?
I feel uneducated.
Oh, you got it. You will love his show.
Insecure.
He used to, yeah. Well, you one-up me on arete. So let's call ourselves intellectual equals. But he wrote basically the drug column for Vice.
Okay.
And then he produced a lot of video for Vice.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Where he basically would go around the world and do drugs.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were indigenous practices, like, toad or iboga.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were highly experimental, like he went to the former Soviet Union and consumed xenon gas, which is the only drug that is a single element on the periodic table. And it's psychedelic and used for sports performance. And it's like given to Russian athletes.
And you're just telling me about this thing now.
I didn't want to bore you, but he's like, I'm not a druggie, I'm a journalist.
Yeah.
And this is a remarkably undercovered topic.
Right.
Right? When you think about like the brain chemistry they're all walking around with all day, every day, and these things that have the ability to modulate that.
Yeah.
And like for 6th grade for 15 minutes, they're like, don't do drugs. Okay, here's the food pyramid.
Right.
Healthy stuff's on the top, bread's at the bottom, go to PE.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yep.
and what I've noticed is that you're right about that alcohol. People are waking up to the fact that alcohol isn't something that should normally be consumed daily and should be a default mode for social and connection. But also, I think people are starting to realize that like weed is a hard drug. Like cannabis is a hard drug.
And it binds itself to your fat solubles. It sticks around too.
And
it's your romantic partner that doesn't leave for 30 days.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It stays in your body?
Yeah, it stays in your fat cells for, it's debated 30 to 45.
Yeah.
Why do I know that? That's another conversation.
Clearly never had to take a drug test.
No, but it's insidious in how prevalent it is.
Yeah.
And how, popular culture has, said things like it's not addictive. Just because something in itself isn't addictive qualities doesn't mean you cannot have an addictive personality or approach to things. My friends would argue I'm addicted to pizza. It doesn't mean pizza is addictive, but
Right.
But that's what, again, the prevalence in culture, or these kind of stories that are told without looking at things and seeing things clearly is what makes these things so dangerous.
Yeah,
actually.
that's right. So that's why I call for just personal firsthand experimentation.
That's what I'm saying.
Determine
Psychonaut.
what is right for you.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but if we can this is where some institutions need to decay or reinvent themselves, right? And some need to stand up, and this is one where we need institutional vigor and the scientific community to come together, government agencies, whoever, come together, make this thing available in safe ways, develop protocols.
It's going to be a long journey climbing out of our puritanical roots.
It tends to be.
Yeah.
It tends to be. But it's important. And then one thing I would say on this topic while we're here, just because I don't want to, I'd be remiss to talk about drugs and alcohol so much and not say this, which is there is also, even when seeking some of the psychedelic benefits of these drugs and things like that, sometimes you can overdo it. And that's why I'm calling, again, the protocols, some sort of context, like let's demystify these things. Let's tell people how and when to use them.
Of course, the dose makes the poison.
The dose makes the poison. And, I'm seeing in certain communities, especially in alarming ways, people are revisiting some of these things so often that it becomes a new home, and it's an escape essentially from reality, and there's no integration.
Right.
And so that's a warning sign or warning label I'd love to put out there. And then there's also an over-procrastination to even the non-drug techniques. We're getting so much language with this emotional literacy that's rising in this century of consciousness expansion that I think we're entering in. That can also get weaponized, and I'm seeing that where people are always healing, always therapizing, always practicing, and never coming back and integrating. I didn't say open is a secular philosophy. I said open is an applied philosophy. Okay, now how do you take the insight, the shift in your perspective, and how do you actually apply that into your conscious experience? Right?
Yeah, integrate it.
To integrate it, right? Not just over-process and find, manipulative ways to purport your environment with your new words and so your new insights. So sorry, just a couple of warning labels that I feel passionate
but you're reminding me
about
I got to come more often.
Please.
And breathe.
Please.
Let's move to our quickfire round.
Oh.
Which I call at large and off the cuff.
Oh.
So you're not on the spot. This should be fun.
Okay.
You can. These should be quick answers, but answer with as much detail as you like. And if you want a tangent or soapbox, be my guest. But I ask all my guests the same question, which is: are you glad that social media exists, or do you wish it never existed?
I'm glad it exists. Techno-optimistic. We need to iterate and refine, and there'll be new platforms and things that emerge, but I think net positive. And I say that with all the stats rushing to my head around the mental health crisis that we're living in.
Even if it's 51% good.
Yeah.
Your answer still stands. Yeah, it's a complicated one. It's such a
complicated one. Very complicated, but if you're an agent of your experience, then you can use it when you want to. If and that's why this neural modulation, this nervous system modulation is so important. You start to attenuate and you start to do things on purpose rather than suck into the habit of it.
That's promised land.
Yeah.
What's your favorite state to be in, and how do you get there?
Well, it comes to mind immediately. I had a visual of like deep physical exertion.
Yes.
I just got an image of me climbing a mountain, smiling, out of breath, completely physically exhausted.
I'm very much in that similar place. Like for me, it's after a run.
Yeah.
The height of a run and after a run.
Right.
Or deep in hours of dancing.
Yeah.
It is a deep physical. I think that is. I don't know whether it's sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system, but it just kind of wears you out to the point where you can't worry about anything.
Right. Well, you're building that resilience, right?
Describe the vibe of open using 3 non-wellness words.
Nice. That's not one of them.
It's nice.
It's super nice. 3 words, not using wellness terms. Don't say authentic. Don't say authentic.
Genuine, I use more than authentic.
Genuine, yeah. Gourmet.
It is some gourmet breathing, my friend.
It's gourmet breathing.
Yeah.
I would say
Open, a gourmet breathing experience.
I mean, don't count it out.
Yeah.
That's tough. The distillation is tough. I think it's honest, it's simple, and it's evolving.
Love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful bars.
Yeah.
What's harder, building a business or building inner peace?
Oh, definitely I gotta go with inner peace.
I've built a business, but damn, I haven't built inner peace.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Building a business is hard too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I don't like to glamorize it too much, but I'm lucky. I'm getting to work on something I really care about. But yeah, the inner landscape is very complicated.
Yeah.
Very, very, very complicated.
Yeah.
I guess it's an easy answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it has to be. Because one's a process and one's a destination, right?
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. That could be a whole moral philosophy right there. Next question. What's your ideal next studio location? Have you discovered an architectural space as good as this?
Like where it is, or
yeah,
like
to interpret it however you like.
Okay. Yeah, an ideal one is a space that's available. I'm finding. Yeah, I think ideally we're gonna get to hit these culture driving cities all over the world, and so that's important because that helps kind of spread these ideas, broadcast these ideas in high leverage ways. But then there's also an ideal that we want to get to as soon as possible, like in the middle of the country as well, where people think that they have certain experiences or exposure to this type of work in a different context, woo or hippy dippy or whatever, and us having stripped some of that out and presenting it in a way that can be more accessible is something we're really excited about as well.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite artist, alive or dead?
I think Steve Jobs. It was an honest answer, but
yeah.
I really think that the ability to kind of make things in the real world and have this interdisciplinary approach, arts, humanities, technology, things that you led off with. I mean, he's so far the GOAT.
Yeah.
And people popped up that in my head right away that use paint and canvas, and some of my favorite musical artists, but no, I think the way he ushered in and kind of like was the last vintage, as we talk about what makes us uniquely human. He tells that story famously of the condor being this efficient moving machine, and the humans were a rather unimpressive mammal primate in terms of and then we invent the bike, and it's this tool that makes us so efficient. And we
can become faster and go longer than any animal on a bicycle.
And so to me, it was like the last kind of vintage of where we're moving into. He was an artist that created the last of the tools.
The bicycle for the mind. The
bicycle for the mind, right. And now we're confronted with, okay, now how do we deal?
Now we have a friggin' motorcycle for the mind with AI.
So what do we do? What's the way of living?
Yeah.
Before we were trying to figure out how we can get ourselves out of doing physical and cognitive work, or do so in such a leveraged and efficient way. How can we get more efficient? Well, there's nothing more efficient than superintelligence that's around the corner. So it's kind of the last artist of efficiency. Now we're entering an era of artistry that is, a different reality.
Other than Jobs, are there any creatives or entrepreneurs that you look up to or looked up to in the process of building Open?
look up to.
Who are some of your kind of North Stars in terms of...
The resistance, by the way, the pause is this, like, it's the anti-guru in me.
Yeah.
Right? So if I reveal one over the other, and, you know...
You can throw a few out.
Well, core to the... Well, actually, I'm gonna stick my foot in, actually, because core to the whole anti-guru thing is, like, the imperfection of what it means to be human and making mistakes and something like that. So it's just, like, hard for me to, like, idolize in public like that, but there's many.
Let me flip it on its head a little bit. Who is a creative or entrepreneur that you think is underrepresented, that you think the audience should get tuned into?
That's a good one. You got it. That's nice. I'll go with Kikagaku Moyo. They're a Japanese psych rock band.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
just less discovered and
fantastic.
more niche. Yeah,
that's
Kikagaku
new to me
Moyo.
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Psych rock is that's a whole journey.
Yeah.
I saw a band once called Takeshi's Cashew that does like Turkish psych rock.
Okay.
And it's named after Takeshi's Castle, which is that almost impossible to win Japanese game show.
Okay. Yeah, the one where people are just
it's been going
like
for like 25 years, and there's been like 6 people who have ever won it.
Yeah.
We can trade international psych rock after
you've
this.
You've got a lot of music. I know this already. Yeah.
Final question, again, that we ask all our guests. Take one good recipe that you make and walk us through making it in enough detail that someone could reproduce it at home.
Oh man, I'm really getting exposed here.
Do you cook?
So How to Fry an Egg by Raed Khawaja.
Okay.
You heat up the pan. You put the butter on the skillet.
What level heat?
Oh, low to medium.
Low to medium.
Yeah.
Are you browning the butter? Are you waiting for the bubbles to die down? Or are you simply waiting for it to melt?
No, I'm letting it simmer, almost brown, but not brown.
Got it.
And then we lay the egg on, and we wait, we observe, we watch. We don't poke anything. We just let it all happen.
Do we salt?
We don't salt during because I don't think you're supposed to. I don't know what you're supposed to wait to. You're supposed to finish with the salt, is my understanding.
I mean, this is your recipe.
This is my egg. Okay, yeah. I wait, and then I flip the egg, and now I might salt a little bit because I oversalt, and I'm gonna salt it again later.
Yeah.
But then I'm just waiting. It's like an over medium.
Yeah.
And then I pepper, and then it hits the plate. That's just the egg.
Very
a fried egg with
very fundamental, very basic, very universal.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Raed.
Thank you, Scott.
And thank you for our audience for joining us and lending your attention in this beautiful space.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into At Large. Today's episode was produced by Sick Bird Productions. Our theme song is Son of Sanford by Motion Worker. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and by email at atlargeshow.com. Follow me at SWH Norton on Instagram and Twitter, and DM me about the guests you want to hear on the show.